Welcome to the OLLI SBU lecture series with Jay Horwitz. Jeff Hollander, if you want to start us off.
Okay, Liz, if we could just project that Mr. Met book. Get a chance. Okay. Today, we're very privileged to have an iconic person from the Met organization, a person who, if those of you who have been following March Madness, actually now is in service to his organization longer than Coach K was at Duke. They both started in 1980. Jay is still there. Even though he's changed his role a couple of years ago, he's got an exciting career. And if you have read the book, like Larry and I and many others have read, he's been a lifelong diehard fan of baseball and football, but especially the National League, which led to his love of the New York Giants before they went to the West Coast, and more importantly, the New York Mets when they came into existence back in the 1960s. But it's really important to know who this person is, because Jay has been a student of sports forever. He didn't play a lot of, well, he never played any Major League Baseball. In fact, I don't know if he got past Little League, but he—
No, I didn't, Jim, not at all, not at all.
He loved baseball, and even though his career in the Little League was limited, he went on to NYU, where he got his degrees in journalism as an undergrad and then history and his master's, but had the perhaps not so great luck to become their sports information director in the late 60s, early 70s, just about the time then they were phasing out major college basketball. Now, I can appreciate what he went through and why he wanted to be there for that, because they were the same great teams of the 60s, along with many other New York area teams when many of you were in college. He then became their sports information director, as I said, then moved over to Fairleigh Dickinson when it was phased out at NYU as being a major college basketball power. But then, as luck would have it, he built himself a great reputation writing for many of the Northern Jersey newspapers, and was offered a job on the Game of the Week with people like Joe Garagiola and Tony Kubek. But at the same time, believe it or not, the Mets kept calling. And they said, hey, we've got something for you in our Office of Public Relations. Are you interested? And an amazing leap of faith, he took the job with the Mets, which were far less strong an organization as maybe NBC would be with their baseball Game of the Week. But he took it. He rose through the ranks very quickly, became director of public relations, eventually vice president of media relations, which he held for decades and decades. And only in the late 20-teens did he switch over to his new position, which is vice president of alumni relations and the club historian. So I think I can't even go into what a body of work he has done. And his career has spanned the lives of such notables as Tom Seaver, Darryl Strawberry, Dwight Gooden, Buddy Harrelson, Keith Hernandez, right through people like, Rusty Staub, David Wright, and today's people like Jacob DeGrom and Pete Alonso. He knows he's the who's who of everybody that you want to know about in baseball related to the New York Mets. So it's with this in mind that I am proud to turn over to you and welcome you to OLLI, Jay, our group, who I know are dying to hear more about what you've got to bring to the table today. Welcome.
Sure. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me, everyone. It's a pleasure being here. So I'm really fortunate. April 1st was my 42nd anniversary in the game. Started April 1st, 1980. I switched jobs a couple of years ago, but I'm really very fortunate to be in the same place for 42 years. I never considered my job going to work. It was always a joy every day. I was never a guy I like to sit behind a desk, and did a lot of travel, meet some great friends, a lot of good people, and a lot of great memories in my 40 plus years. Just real briefly, I wanted to tell you why I really had no intentions of writing this book, and a lot of people wanted me to have a tell-all book to who did drugs, who did this, who did that. That wasn't going to be my kind of book. Mine was going to be a feel-good book, memories, relationships, historic events. And, I really wrote this book for two main reasons. One was to honor Shannon Ford, who worked with me for 22 years in the press office. Shannon unfortunately died of breast cancer in 2016, and never a more courageous woman, raised two young kids, went to work every day, never complained about anything. And I think it was really just important to make sure people didn't forget about her. When MLB had an auction a couple of years ago. Now there's a field in her hometown of Little Ferry, New Jersey. Shannon doing it Ford Field, and a lot of colleges and high schools play on the field. It's a great legacy to a great woman. The other reason I really wrote this book, when my mother carried me a long time ago, my mother got German measles, and I was born with a blind right eye, so I couldn't see. I had one red eye and one green eye and one blue eye. Make a long story short, when I was 13, my right eye was getting bad and had it taken out. And since I was 13, I've had an artificial right eye. And I was really always too embarrassed to tell people that I had an artificial eye. I would say, well, I can't see distances, I can't do this. But, I said, listen, I'm getting near the end of my career. And if I wrote this book, I was hoping to have a message in the book for people who weren't born 100%, physically correct. They can have a career. And, since the year or two the book has come out, I've gotten some letters from youngsters born with a bad leg, a bad arm, a bad finger, that kind of stuff. And a couple of people read the book, and, I was glad that I was able to give them, some encouragement. But I really, through the years, I met a lot of great people, a lot of great memories. Just wanted to touch on a few. One was current. I don't know how the pictures are going to come up, but April 15th, we're going to dedicate the Tom Seaver statue right outside. It's a gigantic statue of him, pitching with his knee on the dirt. And I was fortunate enough to work with Tom in 1983 when he came back to the Mets in the trade. And I remember my first meeting with Tom. We were in the old Hug and Stengel clubhouse in St. Petersburg. I had just gotten a new suit. Remember, I was just a couple of years out of college, and Tom was getting a Whirlpool. And I said, Mr. Seaver, I'm Jay Horwitz, the new PR guy at the Mets. I wanted to meet you. He said, come closer, kid. I can't hear you. So I went closer to the Whirlpool. He proceeded to take the hose from the Whirlpool, dump it down my pants. And I was talking to Tom. My leg got soaked. My leg got soaked, and I kept talking, and I ruined my shoes, but that was my introduction to Tom. And I, was lucky enough to meet him. Unfortunately, Tom became sick. And, the last time I saw him at Citi Field was in 2013 when he threw out the first pitch to Mike Piazza, the All-Star game. And, Jeff Wilpon flew myself and Howie Rose out to California to visit the vineyards, and we had lunch with him, and were able to spend some time with him. And that was really when it was set in motion for the statue. And, and he was had a great sense of humor. And what, the people, he passed away, the people in the office were crushed. A simple reason: Tom never forgot about the little people. When he come to the office, he would say hello to the elevator operator, say hello to the secretary, say hello to grounds people. He never big leagued anybody. He had a great sense of humor, but he was a good man. And unfortunately, he died, way too young. I'm really glad that people, when they go out to Citi Field after April 15th, will be able to get a picture, next to him. And another guy I wanted to touch on was my first manager, Joe Torre. 1980 was my first year with the Mets. Just coming out of college, I didn't know what a major league locker room was like. Joe took me under his wing. He met me, all of his friends, George Brett, Reggie Jackson, Johnny Bench, took me all around, took me to his restaurant in Manhattan. And on my first road trip, in the majors, we were in Montreal. He took me to a tie store on St. Catherine Street, Montreal, and he bought me 7 of the ugliest ties you ever want to see. But he said, you have to wear these every day for a month. And I did. And to this day, Joe, with all the success he's had, the Hall of Fame, the tea commercials, the championships, the Yankees, anytime I need a favor, He's always able to, to pick a phone up, and he always returns my call. People think that, the 86 World Championships is great. It was tremendous. Came back to beat the Red Sox. But if I had to think one team, which would mean some more to me than anything, was probably the 2001 Mets, and how we reacted to the 9/11, to the tragedy with 9/11. We had a great group of guys on the team, starting from our ownership to Bobby Valentine, to Al Leiter, to John Franco, to Vance Wilson, Robin Ventura, Todd Zeal, Glendon Rush. We made so many visits to Ground Zero, to the firehouses, to the police stations. Everybody talks about how Mike Piazza's home run was great, but was so much more than the one home run. Is the commitment we made to the city. We helped the city heal, and a ring is nice. I'm proud of my 86 ring, but for that particular team, we had the 20-year anniversary of 9/11 last September, and we had about 20 guys back from that team, and we felt that we made a difference in the community. And that's probably, if you had to ask me one thing, what's my legacy with the Mets, my thing would be, being proud of that team and what we did. I want to go back to the book for a second. People will say to me, "Oh, Darryl Strawberry's up there." So Darryl and I really joined the Mets in the same year. Darryl was drafted #1 in June of 1980. Probably no one came to the team with more pressure or more anticipation. He was the Black Ted Williams. He was the cover boy on Sports Illustrated, and he was going to lead us to the promised land. Problem was, when Darryl came up in 1983, we were a bad team. We were in, but I think we were 68 wins that year. But Darryl gathered himself and won the Rookie of the Year award and 26 home runs. And a lot of people say, maybe he and Dwight Gooden should have been in the Hall of Fame. Everyone, their problems with drugs and alcohol are well known. But the thing about Darryl is he's turned his life around for the last 20 years. He's been clean, no drugs, no alcohol. He and his wife, Tracy, are traveling ministers. They travel around the country preaching about the evils of drugs and opioids. And, maybe what he's doing now in a way is more important than getting to the Hall of Fame. And Dwight's the same way. Dwight teaches the high schools. He goes to camps, and the message is, don't do what we did. Don't make our mistakes. And they never ran away from any of the problems they've had. And that's why I think they're so beloved in the community, because they faced up to the problems, and they're both doing good work. And yeah, maybe they didn't get to the Hall of Fame, but in life there are other things more important, get plaques and awards. And there's Dwight there, and and he, everyone talks about DeGrom and Scherzer and everything, but in the 80s there was nobody like Doc Gooden. It was, an event at Shea Stadium was a happening. You had the K corner in the outfield. They put every time he struck out somebody, 16 strikeout games, all-star games. He was 19, and just the whole effort. Probably the biggest mistake that I ever made as a PR guy was I said yes to everything for Dwight and David, and Dwight and Darryl, and their careers. I think I put too much pressure on them, saying yes to so many interviews. I never said no. Right now, like I said, we were bad teams when they came up, and it's easy to say yes to generate publicity. But I always say to myself, if I had said no, put some less pressure on, could things have worked out differently for them in the beginning. But their lives are great now. They're doing a lot of good work in the community, and I'm proud to have both of them to be our friends. And we're going to have an Old Timers Day game August 27th, which I'm working on now. And Dwight and Darryl among the 60 plus people who will be at the game, and it should be something any Met fan or baseball fan should see. We'll have Darryl Strawberry, Dwight Gooden, Mike Piazza, Robin Ventura, Howard Johnson. It should be a great affair. We have 4 1960 New Mets are going to be there, and it is one of my other favorite guys is David Wright. David at age 22, started his own foundation to give back to the community. Dave is one of a handful of captains, Johnny Franco, David Wright, Garrett Carter, and Keith Hernandez, and they all had a lot in common. They all gave back to the community. They all realized that baseball was great, but there were other things, signing autographs, doing good stuff, going to hospitals, going to schools. And David raised close to $1 million for a hometown hospital in his hometown of Norfolk, Virginia. Unfortunately, he was on track for a Hall of Fame career. He had neck and back injuries. David just turned 39 last December, and he would be still playing now, probably, still hitting his home run. But he's okay with his life now. He has 3 young kids. He and his wife Molly live in California, and there's no more what ifs. He knows. He had a great career. He's willing to make the adjustment. He was in spring training last week for a couple of days and meeting with the young guys, and he's well happy the way his life is right now. So who's your next pick? Jacob DeGrom. And when people always ask me when my book came out, why would Jacob DeGrom write a foreword for your book? You have to remember, I'm probably 40 years older than Jacob DeGrom. I was with Jacob at the beginning, his rookie of the year in 2014. And the editor of the book came to me and said, what guy do you have a relationship with on the team now? Not the older guys, not the alumni guys. And I said, Jacob DeGrom. And one thing which I try to do in my time with the Mets, I didn't want to be a suit. So when I would go into the locker room, I would, try treat the 25th guy like the number 1 guy. I always have a way of getting to work with the younger guy. So Jacob and I had this thing. I would ask him for an interview, and he'd say, okay, I'll do the interview, but you have to do this for me. One of his things, we had a basketball net in the middle of the locker room. He said, if you can make 3 shots, I'll do the interview for you. I never made 3 shots, but he always did the interview for me. So that was my way of relating to the guys who are a lot younger than me. No, I'm not a front office. I'm not a snitch. I'm not there to spy on them. I'm one of them. And once you lose the trust of the players, it's hard for a PR guy to exist. But I think the guys knew. One time I went out in the field, I hit fungos to him and Steven Matz for Pepper game. And, it was always, you got to do this. And I said, I'm going to embarrass myself and do it. But I think these guys know that I'm going to be one of them. I'll do it. And they never refuse an interview. I'm so proud of what he's done in his career. And unfortunately had a setback this week. But, one thing about Jacob DeGrom, he doesn't care about commercials. He doesn't care about social media. All he wants to do is pitch. And I know him that he's going to put every effort he can to get back as soon as he can, help the Mets in a month or so to get back and stay in the pennant race. And he'll hopefully win his 3rd. Well, can't explain that picture, to be honest with you. I think this is Bobby Bonilla's bowling tournament. The Rangos girl, Bobby used to sponsor a bowling tournament, and they had, I think they were the Rango girls. And for some reason, there's that picture. There's no really explanation for that. They were at the event. They helped make it do stuff for players there. And God, that's an old looking picture. Nice pants and a jacket, huh? But I just don't know their names. And I think that's Brett. Is that Brett Saberhagen? I don't know who I'm sitting next to be honest with you.
Billy Wagner?
Billy Wagner, sorry. Why am I wearing the orange jacket? This is why I was superstitious, and I would do anything to help the team. And they would come up with these cockamamie things that you got to wear 1 sneakers to game or jacket. And if we won 1 game, I had to wear it the 2nd game. I think I wore the jacket about 6 games in a row. One time I shaved my head to keep a winning streak going. Like I said, I was all in for doing anything to be part of the team. And that was my kind of any success I had. I had to wear an ugly red jacket about 5 or 6 days. So it was worth it. And here's my good friend Al Leiter, a great Jersey guy. Al works for the Mets now in the front office. And now Al's son Jack, as much of you know, was a number 2nd round pick in a draft, number 2 pick in the draft last year. And when Jack makes it to the major leagues, it's going to be the first family to have 4 major league pitchers from one family. There's Al and Jack and Mark Leiter, his son, Mark Jr. So Al is another guy who does good charity work. He's founded this thing, Leiter's Landing, a long time ago. He's proud of his roots. He's a New Jersey guy. Just renovated his high school field in Toms River. So one thing about when I switched over my jobs, all these guys I'm working with now become good friends. And, Al and Johnny and Doc are all good friends to this day. That's Carlos Delgado and I don't know who the woman is, Paula Duca. probably one of the disappointments we've had in 2006. We won, I think, 97 games. Went through the playoffs. Carlos had a monster year, 30 plus home runs, 100 RBIs. Should be in the Hall of Fame if he didn't hurt his hip. And then we get to Game 7 in the series against the Cardinals. Andy makes that great overall catch in the 6th inning. Rob Scott rolling for a home run. We have the bases loaded, 1 out. In the bottom of the inning, don't score. And in the 9th inning, Met Killer, Yadier Molina, was still playing to this day. I don't know how. It's a 2-run home run. We lose the game. And one thing about that, seeing, I'm really just so disappointed that Willie Randolph has never gotten another managing job. In his years with the Mets, he had a .530 winning percentage. A great guy, knows New York, knows the game. The players loved him. And it's just a real shame that he was never able to get back in the game and really deserved to be managing someplace. Jose Reyes. He asked me, we talk about his triples and his stolen bases. What I remember most about Jose, that when he came over from the Dominican, he taught himself English. He went to class, went to school, listened to records. A lot of times the foreign board players will use interpreters. And my always advice to them was, even battle through it in the beginning. People, get your personalities going forward. And Jose did that. He taught himself to speak English, and now he still lives in New York. He's a great Met, the only batting title winner. He lives right now in Manhasset with his family, and again he'll be at the Old Timers Game 2 in August. It's another good guy worth seeing. The great Mazzo, Lee Mazzilli. He was Derek Jeter before Derek Jeter. #1 pick, heartthrob. He was when he first met to win a MVP in an All-Star game. People don't know he was a Olympic speed, could have been an Olympic speed skater. And I just saw him the other day in Florida. He's going to be at the Old Timers Game 2. He came back to the Mets in '86 as a pinch hitter, a part-time player, got a lot of key hits, and was a key part of our '86 team. And he had a great career as an announcer, a manager, a coach, and hopefully we'll get him to be involved with the Mets someday. Why am I doing that? Well, this was in 2006. David had just hit a home run, grand slam against Italy in WBC. And to josh around a little bit, I thought he came back to visit before he was going away. I put on his uniform, and I think I really had to struggle to get into his uniform. My number 5 is kind of hanging over. But David is a good friend. He's got a great sense of humor, and it was a fun thing we did. Two all-time Mets, Darryl Strawberry again, and David Cohn. Really happy for David's success with the Yankees, and now he's going to be on ESPN. He won won 20 games for us one year, and this was a kind of a throw-in trade with Ed Hearn back then. He developed it to a guy who should be considered for the Hall of Fame, and he's gone on to have a great career, broadcasting career. And I always kid him. I said, David, I can't talk to you now. You with the Yankees, but I always manage to say a couple of words to him. This is my when I changed jobs in September of 2018. The Mets gave me a going away press conference. I was really, really touched by all the people who came to see me. Darryl and Dwight and Johnny Franco and Keith Hernandez and Edgardo Alfonso, Mookie Wilson. I think it's Ron Darling to the right there. It's really, it's really, in my job, friendship means a lot. To have the whole press room was packed with people from the media that day, and something I always remember. And just a real pleasure knowing these guys. These pictures bring back a lot of great memories. I think that's Tim Tuffle there too. So a lot of great memories from those pictures, guys. That was the same day David hit the home run, and he became Captain America. And so to josh him, we took a picture in front of his locker, and I was dressed up as Captain America. I think he did a better job than I did, but that's when I started my Twitter stuff. So anything to get some followers. So we did that, and it generated a couple of followers. I'm matured in my old age, and I still don't do that anymore. And Sid Finch, probably one of the best things I've ever been a part of. The spring of 1985, Frank Cashin called me into his office and said, "Jay, you have a quirky sense of humor. We'd like to try something with you." George Plimpton and the SI wanted to do an April Fool's joke, had the Mets sign his 6'7" flamethrowing right-hander from some faraway country. And what people didn't realize, the opening paragraphs of the stories, the first letter of each paragraph said, "This is an April Fool's joke." So we fooled people for a couple of days. We got calls. I got a call from the editor of the New York Times saying, "Why don't you give the story to us and not Sports Illustrated? We cover you every day." And then we set up a batting practice the next day when we had a cage, and it closed it off. And we had one of the catches, Ron Reynolds, came out. We burnt the hole in his catching glove, and we said that this was Sid Finch's 190-mile-an-hour curveball. And we were able to do this because at that time, there was no Twitter, no Instagram, no TikTok. We never could pull it off today, but it's probably one of the best baseball jokes ever. And we didn't hurt anybody. And for a couple of days, we had the baseball world on edge, thinking we signed this guy who threw a 190-mile-an-hour fastball from a faraway country.
Jay, while we're up here, just if you could, those that are in with the Zoom today, please start putting questions in chat, because when Jay is finished going over some of the highlights of his career, we want to try to answer as many questions as possible. But as you can see, he's got a wealth of knowledge of every decade of the Mets for the last 4. All right, thank you.
Yeah, this is game 6 of the World Series. I think it's Rain Knight scoring the winning run. Howard Johnson is there to. This might be the winning run. I'm not sure because the catch is still there. This was at our rally, and when I was sitting in Davey Johnson's office, 2 outs at the bottom of the 9th, bottom of the 10th inning, 2 strikes. We're losing by 2 runs. Gary Carter starts the rally. Kevin Mitchell, Ray Knight, and the miracle. We win 6-5. The next day we're losing 3-0. The 5th inning we come back and win, and we have the parade. And that's that can't be the last. Maybe it is the last out. I mean, the winning run, because the catcher's there, and it had the Mookie miracle. And it's one of the picture I'll never forget. Howard Johnson's always answered trivia question: who was the guy on deck after Mookie Wilson did hit? It was Howard Johnson. He said he would have gotten a hit too. That's one of my favorite pictures. We talked about, Keith a little bit about co-captains and both leaders of the Mets, and different kind of people. Gary was more outspoken, more vociferous. Keith really led by his play on the field, didn't say a whole lot, just led by his actions when the pitchers would come to the mound to quiet a pitcher. It was like a secondary pitching coach on the field. And Gary unfortunately died too young at the age of 57 from brain cancer. I'm really looking forward to just July 9th. Keith's number is going to be retired, number 17, rightfully so, but 2 of the great leaders of the Mets. Well, this is because of Bobby Valentine. Bobby was hired by the Rangers, and he worked for President Bush, 41, and that's 43, sorry. And he arranged a visit to the White House with us, and we had pictures, got to shake his hand, and he knows his baseball. He really did. All of our guys were there, and the president loved Bobby. I think he fired him at one point too. So then his claim to fame is, "I fired Bobby Valentine." That's when this was right after 1995, when President Clinton came to Shea Stadium to celebrate Jackie Robinson Day. He came, was when we were celebrating the number retirement. I got to meet him, and I met him in a couple of All-Star games. And I didn't go into baseball. I wanted to go into politics. So it's always a big thrill for me when I can meet some politicians, especially presidents.
think that's it for the pictures.
Okay. You open for any questions, guys?
Jeff, there's some questions in here. Do you want to?
Yeah, I think I'll bring them up. Let me just there in chat, I guess. Before I get to those questions, I just wanted to ask you a question, Jay. I know you were very close and still are with Keith Hernandez.
Right.
In fact, I believe they're honoring him this year, aren't they, this summer?
Yeah, July 9th, we're retired as number 17.
Right, and is that somewhat, how often does that happen with the Mets organization?
Well, we've retired. Let me see. Casey Stengel, Gil Hodges, Mike Piazza, Tom Seaver, and number 42 for Jackie Robinson. So we really didn't do a whole lot, but we're going to pick the pace up now. Our new ownership wants to do more of that, and I think in the next couple of years you'll be seeing a lot more numbers retired. But Keith was the glue that kept the '86 team together, and his number really deserves to be retired.
Just one other quick question on Keith, and then we'll go to the first of the chats. Did you have anything to do with getting him on Seinfeld?
No, that was his agent. He did that on his own. Jerry Seinfeld is a big Mets fan, and I think he reached out to Keith through his agent. That's one of his. Keith is still getting paid for those residuals, whatever you want to call them. So yeah, he and Roger McDowell, was it the second shooter or something? I forget the premise of the thing, but he and Roger still get checks from those shows they were on.
I noticed that Seinfeld has sort of a recurring role of, being in the announcers, comes back at least.
Yeah, he's a big Mets fan, and the guys, Gary, Keith, and Ron love speaking to him. At least once a year, he'll come there and talk to the guy. Jerry's a big Mets fan.
Right. All right, Paul, why don't you ask yours first, and then we'll go to the chats, okay?
Okay, thank you, Jay. Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Jay, I'd like to ask you, how hard was it for the Mets organization to trade away the franchise, Tom Seaver, when he was let go? Was there a big internal
Well, I wasn't there.
discussion?
They're number one. Okay, started in 1980. That took place in. We took about the first time or the second time.
First time, if you
Well, that
can
was to
comment
the
on
Reds
it.
in '77,
Right.
and I guess it was all about money. Tom wanted another contract. He always at the time didn't want to pay him, and we also let him go the second time when the White Sox picked him up in a draft, which we admitted was a mistake. We didn't think the White Sox would take him, but it was tough. And thankfully, we got him back again, and we rightfully we have the statue. It's hard, I mean, the first time was strictly about money. It was a contract discussion with M. Donald Grant. They couldn't agree on the money, and they traded him away to Cincinnati. It's kind of apropos funny that the only no-hitter he pitched his career was with the Reds and not with the Mets.
Good, thank you.
Yes.
Thanks. All right, Larry, why don't you ask your question? I think you're still mute.
How does the advent of social media, how has that impacted your role over the past few years?
Well, not so much now, but when I was the everyday PR guy, it made the players have to be on guard. You have to know who you go down an elevator with, who you're eating with in a restaurant, who you're walking with on the street, who you're saying stuff to. It can wind up, in social media. I mean, people lost their jobs, lost their careers over that. So when I was a PR guy with the Mets, we used to have lectures and media day in the spring. You have to be careful. You have to know where you're going and where you're working with, but because there's no shields anymore. Everything is an open book, and you just got to be careful. Any innocent thing could be taken to be the wrong way, and the players today have to really be on guard at what they do and what they say or what they tweet or what they have in their locker.
Thank you. Len, you have a question? Verano? You there?
I had a couple of things. Let me ask the last one first. Do you think that Carlos Beltran deserved to be fired for the Astros scheme, or was this just too embarrassing for the Mets?
Well, I don't really want to say too much about that, to be honest with you. Let me just say this way. Carlos was a good friend. I hope he gets in the Hall of Fame someday. And it was just an unfortunate thing. We just felt it was the right thing to do at the time. That's really what I want to say about that.
We could certainly understand that. It's a very difficult situation when any of these things happen. And look what happened with the Yankees yesterday.
Yeah.
First day on the job, sometimes,
Yeah, but let me go back to what I said before. I'm pretty sure we're not knowing. The Aaron Judge probably said, "Hey, Carlos, I got a deal worked out." And Carlos, his nudity in the active game, it kind of slipped, but
Yeah.
it's another day's worth of publicity for the Yankees.
I think what I read, and I think I saw in one of the interviews, Jay, is that they all sort of were kind of laughing about it when asked about the situation. So let me ask you a question. You're the press relations guy, if you were still in that media relations role at the Mets organization. So put yourself in, I guess, whoever's your similar position over at the Yankees. How do they handle all those things? Did they refer them to Cashman? Did they refer them?
I think they said the
Judge?
right thing. They said, "There's an offer on the table, but it's not done yet." That's not denying anything, just saying there's an offer on the table, it's not done yet. I think that's the way the Yankees handled it. I think it was fine.
Right. Okay, thank you, Mike.
Well, mine was kind of already answered, I think, but I was just asking about if there were any plans in the works for other numbers to be retired after Keith and.
Yeah, the numbers, David Wright.
Right, that's what I thought, David, right?
Right, Darryl, maybe the Reyes down the road there. We really took the end not to do a lot of them, but now I think we're gonna do more of them because the new ownership wants to do more.
That's good. Thank you. By the way, I loved your book.
Thank you, I appreciate it, thank you.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Harold, you had a question? You out there? Harold? Harold, we'll come back to him if he's not ready. Who else is, are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Over the years with the long-term contracts, do you think the Mets got a bang for their buck? Because, you think about Cespedes and some of the deals that didn't work out.
Well, yeah, some did, but Beltran just worked out. We got more for them. Others didn't work out. Louis Castillo didn't work out. Alvaro Perez didn't work out. Yeah, right, didn't work out. But yeah, but you know what? If you get into the pool, it's not going right out. If you can get, a good portion of the contract, good, it's good. You're not going to get all 70 years of a 70-year contract. Unfortunately, Santana got hurt, Pedro got hurt, but you get what you get. You get some notoriety in the beginning, and but if you're going to play the game this year, then now you're going to have to do these long-term contracts, and just pray.
Okay, who else has a question? Larry, I think you have another one coming up.
Yeah. Have you gotten involved with the SNY announcers? You certainly knew Keith and Ron from their playing days. What about Gary Cohen?
Well, yeah, I'm not now because I'm not the everyday PR guy, but we have alumni stuff. This year we will, because we have so many alumni events this year. You have the Seaver statue, Gil Hodges Day, the honoring Santana for his no-hitter, the Old Timers Day game. So they'll put alumni on during the year. And that's what I work with the announcers. Howie Rose is a big alumni guy on radio. And, so that's where I'll funnel a lot of the alumni requests to them through when specific alumni events come up.
Okay, we've got an awful lot of people on that know their baseball, and I know a lot of you are Mets fans. This is your chance to ask a guy that really knows about the Mets. I think I have more Yankee fans asking questions. Where are you guys? Raj, Elliot, come on. Where are the Met people? Nothing, no question in your mind?
There's a question from Bob.
Go ahead, Bob. Sorry.
Hi, Jay. Just wondering about the new owner, Cohen. Is he really deeply involved in the day-to-day operations?
Again, I'm not really involved with him because I'm the alumni stuff, but he is. To answer your question, he wants to put a good product on the field. We've had a lot of good improvements in the stadium with the scoreboard and the food stuff, and he's heavily invested in doing alumni events. So he's really got the fans at heart, and he wants to do a lot of good things.
Well, that's good to hear. Just
Yes, sir.
One other question: is there gambling sites now at this? I was going to say Shea at City Field.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I don't know. I know we have some partners, but I don't know if they're on site. I don't know that.
I hope not. I just don't think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Jay, I told you when I sent you an email recently that we had the pleasure of hosting another Mr. Met the mascot, one of the
Right, Matt,
mascots last year, Matt Golden, and actually his parents are on the Zoom. What is in that role that you used to be in, especially, what is the relationship between you and the mascots? Do you really?
Well, I wasn't that much. I mean, the mascots would go to hospitals, to go to schools, plays and stuff like that. But they would be appearing on the field, and another department controlled what the mascots did, throwing stuff in the stand, sweatshirts and t-shirts. And I would meet them periodically at press events and stuff like that. But I really was not really in control of the mascots.
Right. So assuming, I know Matt had a very successful career there. There was, I believe, at least one mascot that had a less than perfect career. And
Well,
did
yeah.
you do damage control for that type of thing?
Well, we apologize. And what are you going to do? And one thing you're honest and say he shouldn't have done what he did, and we apologize.
Right. Okay, Raj, I see you smiling. Got you going. All right, here we go.
No, Jay, this is a real treat to see you. I've been a Mets fan since day one in 1962.
Thank you.
And we've been through all the ups and downs of the Mets, and it's been a thrill. The question I have really has to do with David Wright. He's one of my favorite Mets of all time, and he's been through a lot of health problems. How's he doing? How's his health doing?
I just saw him in Florida a couple of days ago. He's doing great. He's gotten over the what ifs if I could still be playing. He's got 3 young kids, 2, 4, and 6. He lives out in California with his wife Molly. He might do a little consulting with the team, but he's very well adjusted to his life and just being a dad. He's coaching one of his kids playing t-ball and doing all the dad things. He's in a good place.
Thank you very much, Jay. I appreciate
Sure.
it.
All right, let's go back to the questions that are there. Larry, you want to go back to your new one?
Yeah, another one. I don't know how much you can say, Jay, but back around 1986, when Doc Gooden was having his drug problems, we didn't really know about it as fans until later. But he missed events, he missed the parade. What was your role in kind of hiding all of that?
We weren't hiding. I mean, no one knew. Maybe no one knew. At that time, you couldn't test the players, If you couldn't test them, you can't do anything. And, but I don't really like to dwell on that stuff. That's the past. The best thing I want to say about Doc and Darryl is they both turned their lives around, and they're both in a good place right now. And they, had some hiccups along the way, but, Doc and Darryl, they do a lot with young kids, and they do a lot of appearances. So I just want to say I'm proud to be their friends and the way they turned their life around.
I think we can all appreciate that if you know anybody that's ever gone through those issues. And I think what you mentioned earlier, Jay, was important, that maybe the pressure of, having to deal with the media at that time.
But they were young kids when they came up too. They both were 18, 19 years old. So,
and they were at the top of their game, but they weren't. Think about the kids today that are making ridiculous, well, I won't say ridiculous, that's the going rate, but kids, in their 20-ish year coming out, especially of maybe the Caribbean, they're getting $10 and $20 million a year thrown at them.
It's hard doing it in the New York market too. There's so much more media and much more attention. If they had come up in Kansas City or Minnesota or Seattle, it's a different story. And we were just becoming good when they got here too, which made it even harder.
I know when we had you scheduled, I spoke to Dave Lennon, who's who visits with us usually every year, every other year at the worst. And, he only had great things to say about you. I know that the Baseball Writers of New York, Baseball Writers of America gave you a nice award a couple of years back.
Yeah, it was very nice. Dave's a good friend, and I always try to treat all the writers all the same. If they were big paper, small paper, medium-sized paper, I just tried everybody the same, And, Dave knows his stuff. He's a real professional writer.
And I know they appreciate it, which is, I think, important.
Yeah, I do. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, Steve Dalton, you had a question? Your hands up?
Yes. Hi, Jay.
Yes, sir.
Just wondering, us fans are kind of born and or bred to root for one team or the other team, and to have all this rivalry. I'm wondering what the players these days think about that. With the Players Association, they move around so much. Do they share that type of animosity, or they just look at the other guys as
what do you mean
animosity
to who?
No, I mean, do Mets players dislike the Yankee players?
I don't think that they do. I never could root for the Yankees. Anybody says you can root for the Yankees and the Mets, I think it's crazy. You can't. I mean, I can't. I was never a Yankee fan. Could never root for the Yankees. And if you're a bona fide fan of one of the teams, I don't know how you root for the other team. But I think the players don't really look at it like that. It's more the fan stuff and media stuff like that. The players don't. You know, a lot of these guys are friends. They live in the same town. You know, eat together, go stuff together in the winter. But for me, it was always, you know, as a fan, I grew up a Giant fan. I analyzed Willie Mays. I never could root for the Yankees. And when I went to work for the Mets, I still couldn't root for the Yankees. So that's just me.
Hey, Florence, you had a question. You want to ask it? You out there? Unmute yourself. All right, well, we'll wait, come back to her. You there, Florence? No, or is that Jim?
Yeah, hey Jeff. Yeah, Florence had to step away, but I think she was just trying to find out that, you know, as fans, we get frustrated with the amount of money that these players make, that some of them don't seem to really appreciate the fans, the importance to their careers. Did it get frustrating to you when you'd have these big stars that didn't understand the public relations part of the deal?
Well, I would try to explain it to them. I would do, and I've been fortunate not to be idealistic. I had way more good guys than bad guys in my 40+ years here. I mean, most of the bigger guys, the Strawberries, the Gooden, the Hernandezes, the David Wrights, the Lighters, the Francos, you know, they got what it was to do the other things. So again, maybe I was just lucky, but I try to tell them that, you know, the guys respected my judgment and they would do stuff what I asked them to do. And I think they knew I had their best interests at heart. And I was fortunate enough to work with a lot more good guys than bad guys.
Well, I'd just like to thank you for that answer, Jay. And I'd just like to say, as a fan, I've often heard that you were a big part of helping to build that culture, to make them understand.
Well, we tried through the years. I tried.
Just to follow up, if I could, do you notice any trend from the 80s to today? Are the players more hip about social media and responding better to your as a PR guy?
Well, when I first started, there was no social media. It really didn't come to vogue until the last couple of years, you know, and now they all do. And, you know, they just have to be careful what they tweet and what they take pictures of. But the only thing I tell them about social media is just to be careful that, you know, try and stay away from politics, try and stay away from religion, you know, because you can make 50% of people right and the other 50% will hate you. So just try and, you know, walk the middle if you can. That's really my advice to them.
Okay, thank you. Ed, I know you have a question. It's good to see one of the Met fans out there.
Yeah, hi, Jay. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Yes, sir. Same here.
My sister and I, we have 20-game weekday plans since 2015. That was a great year to start it.
Yes, it was.
The World Series. Just wanted to ask you, two of our favorite players are Wilmer Flores and Dan Murphy. And, you know, the Mets let Murphy go after that tremendous postseason he had in 2015. How did the players react to that? You know,
I lost you for a second. Somebody froze.
Yeah. Okay. Daniel Murphy, 2015.
Yes.
He was unbelievable in the postseason, and then the Mets let him go. They didn't give him a contract. So we were very disappointed in that. And so how did the players react to that?
Well, most of the players just were happy for Daniel. I was disappointed too, to be honest with you. But you know, he had a great couple of years with Washington. He's coming to the Old Timers Day game. He's looking forward to putting on a Met uniform again. And you know, Daniel got a better offer from Washington. You know, took care of his family. It happens. Baseball's a business too, you know, and you have to look out for what you can do. And he took care of his family, had a good couple of all-star years, and happy for success. And now, you know, he's going to be wearing a Mets uniform again August 27th.
Yeah. But we always saw, I mean, he was a good hitter all the time. You know, whenever he came to the plate, maybe his fielding wasn't quite up to par.
Yeah, but okay,
You know,
but he had a great postseason that year, you know.
he did. Yeah. What about Wilmer Flores? He's been a
Great
hero.
guy, great guy. That when he thought he was traded, he won the Met fans over for turning when he cried on the field.
Oh, yeah. So I remember the first time he came back, when the Giants came back.
Yeah, I got it.
We were at the game, and a lot of the fans, he was near the third base side, and a lot of the fans were talking with him, you know, and so.
Yeah, he's a good guy, good guy.
Yeah.
7
Okay,
days in
thank-
Flushing. If you saw this thing on SNY, it was about the Wilma Flores story.
Right. Okay, well, thanks, Jay. It's a
No
pleasure.
problem, my
meeting you.
pleasure,
Thanks-
my pleasure,
Thanks for coming to our
my
group.
pleasure.
Jay, one of the people we didn't have a picture of, and then we'll get back to, I know we have a few more hands or chats, was Rusty Staub. You seem to have had a very good relationship with
Rusty
him.
is Le Grand Orange. No one with a bigger charity guy than Rusty. He started his foundation to give back to the police and firemen and widows who lost in the line of duty. Worked with Cardinal Dolan on food drives. Tremendous guy. He's got a heart of gold, and you know, no doubt in my mind, if he had played with one club, he would be in the Hall of Fame today. He's the only guy to have 500 hits with 4 different clubs. Great guy. I mean, I can't. He was a godfather to Keith. He had Keith get adopted to in ways in New York, and his loss. April 1st is his birthday. Every time it comes around, I always think of Rusty.
Another thing I noticed in your book and also in your interview with Bruce up at the Hall of Fame was that you seem to have relationships and know the families of most of the players. Does that come from them coming to the stadium, or I know
It's just
they're
getting
sort
to
of
know
your
the
family?
people and to try to get to know the players, not just as baseball players, people. This kid needs something. His wife needs something. You need a place to eat. You need a place to live. I try to get to. If you get engrossed in this job, you have to get engrossed the whole way and get to know the families, and that's what I try to do.
And one of them is, I know, Joan Hodges. You worked closely with her.
Yes, we're really happy that Gil's in the Hall of Fame, and I still, Joan's 95 now, and we speak to her. I speak to like 4 or 5 days a week, and we're excited going up to Cooperstown in July for Hall of Fame Day, and Gil, is a great manager, great player, but he's also a great person. He won a medal in the Korean War, served the country, got a medal in Okinawa. Great father, family man, husband. So we're really thrilled he's going into the Hall of Fame.
And I'm sure your efforts are one of the reasons that he finally.
Well, a
got
lot
it.
of people.
But we heard you did a lot. All right, Paul, let's go back to you. Then I think Len had another one too. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Jay, I assume that nobody knows better than you the amount of intense media scrutiny and pressure that comes with managing a team like the Mets. Through all your years, was there any one manager who you thought had the ideal personality for dealing with that scrutiny and pressure?
I really don't like those kind of questions because all these guys are my friends. I don't like to single anybody out. From Joe Torre to Terry Collins to Bobby Valentine to Willie Randolph to Art Howe. I don't really. It's tough. I don't like to. Somebody says, "Who's your favorite Met player?" I can't answer that, and I don't. They all were good in different ways, and fortunate enough to be my friends. And I don't like picking favorites.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's why he lasted 40 some odd years, Paul.
Probably.
Len, how about yourself? Let's not get too political on the mayor question. Go ahead, Len.
Yeah, I just one comment first. There are a lot of guys on this call who are old. We're all old. But the
I'm
question
old
is,
too, my friend. I'll be
we've
77.
been around for a long time, and a lot of us don't have the same issue. I root for the Met. I'm a Yankee fan. I started being a Yankee fan in '47, but I root for anything that has New York in front of it.
Yeah,
and a lot of us have changed our feelings about that. I hated the Brooklyn Dodgers. I mean, it was like I hate the thing, but I had a problem with the Mets. That's the question.
I can't root for the Yankees. I apologize.
That's okay. My question is, how does a PR guy deal with this whole issue of COVID and people and athletes not wanting to take vaccinations and
Yeah, I can't get that's I don't really want to touch that. You know, I mean, I've been double vaccinated. I have my booster shot, so I can't speak for anybody else. You know, really can't do that. It's not.
Well, I
You lose a lot
understand.
of friends.
How do you
You
deal
lose
with
a lot
it?
of friends when you talk about that.
How do you deal with it though, from a PR standpoint?
I thankfully I haven't had to deal with it because I'm in alumni affairs. I'm not involved with the current players.
Right.
But it's too much of a, you know, it's become a political thing. I don't really,
Yeah.
you know, like I
Fair
said,
enough.
I've had my 2 shots and I'm boosted.
All right, Bob, I think Bob Coles has got a question. You still out there, Bob? Bob? I'm not sure. Anyway, his questions seem to be, is Steve Cohen involved in the day-to-day operations and control of the big player contracts?
Well, and like any owner, I'm sure is involved. You know what I mean? All owners are involved. They have to be. They sign the checks.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're getting pretty much down to he committed to an hour. We don't want to, you know, we know he's got a couple things on his plate, actually, a little baseball season starting up. But just to maybe, again, go back to what you're doing currently. So what is exactly, what does it mean to be, you're working with the retirees, you're working with the
No, with the
alumni.
alumni place, we have 4 events this year. We have the Seaver statue, the Keith retirement, the Hodges Day, Santana 10-year anniversary, the Old Timers Day game. We bring players into the stadium to sign autographs, celebrate our past, celebrate birthdays, anniversaries, you know, talk about Mets history. We have a lot to be proud of, and because I work with most of these guys in the past, and that's what I do. You know, it's
Right.
I just try and promote different things and you know, different anniversaries, different events, and we're lucky enough to have you know, things going on this year. This could be a very exciting year for, you know, old time Met fans.
And what's amazing is because you know the players for like 40 some odd years, you
Right.
pretty much know all the alum.
I most certainly do. And
Yeah,
I'm
it's
honored to
great.
do so.
Bill, you have a question?
Yes, hi Jay. I'm a
Yes, sir.
longtime Met fan from back in '62. I was an old Brooklyn Dodger fan, and then I
Okay.
converted to the Mets. I was wondering what you're feeling about the DH for the National League, and also you've heard criticism about the game. The games are too long, they're boring, there's too many strikeouts. What improvements would you like to see in the
Well,
game?
first of all, I think the DH is good, but the league should be the same. And the DH, I never was a big fan of watching the pitchers hit. You know, like Jacob DeGrom's even said he might have got hurt swinging a bat. You know, I've never been a clock watcher at a game. As long as the Mets won, I was happy. But I think we got to do something. I'm not a big fan of the shift. I like the runner at second and with the extra innings, they add some excitement. I'm glad they did away with the 7-inning doubleheaders. But I think we have to do something to take away from, you know, either strikeout or home run. We got to get back to baseball. I think maybe doing away with the shifts would do that too.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Pat, I think you might have the last question. Go ahead. Pat out there?
Yes, I was just wondering how you feel about the analytics that are used in baseball today.
Everybody does it, you know. I mean, I think it's got to be analytics plus, you know, it can't be just analytics. It can't be just scouting. It's got to be combination thereof because the scouts are important to the game and the numbers could tell you so much. And it's hard to get inside of somebody's heart. And that's what a good scout can tell you. I think it's got to be a combination of both.
Yeah, I agree. And I love the Mets too.
Keep the faith. It's going to be our year.
Hope so.
Oh, me too.
Jay, recently, you know, Beltram came out with that story about the Astros. Has Major League Baseball done away with the metal trash cans in the dugout? And if
That's what I know. I don't know.
but seriously though, you know, I know the Yankees are allegedly accused of something. Is that common? And it's just part of, you know, baseball?
I don't really want. You know, I don't want to get into that stuff.
Okay,
so much.
it just seems like it's, you know, everybody's pointing fingers, you know, and for the
Yeah,
fans, we
get
look at it and we don't even know
Yeah,
what to believe, what not to believe.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Okay, I understand. All right, any other final quick question? I think we can really appreciate the wealth of knowledge that Jay brings to the table. If you haven't read his book, Mr. Met, you might want to Google it and find it because it's a good read. It's fast. It's very relieving about not only his life, but many of the players and the individuals that we've thought about over the years, but maybe didn't know everything about. So we do appreciate. Any final thought on your part, Jay?
No, it's been a pleasure. I enjoyed the bar play. We can talk baseball, and hopefully the Mets have a great year.
Yes, we're looking forward to maybe a Subway Series. I know the country doesn't want one, but I know New York needs one. It's time we win some pennants.
Yeah.
So,
All right, thanks,
for joining
everybody.
us.